36. Disavowed. Searing light and excruciating pain defined Knox's every waking moment. He resisted the urge to cover his eyes and lay still, carefully pulling in a breath and drawing a slow trickle of power. Using these few wakeful moments to heal as much as he could within the bonds of the suppression manacles took all the focus he could muster. It paid off as his mind cleared and warmth suffused through him in gentle waves, freeing him for a few blissful moments. He studied the room. They never opened a door, never left food or water. Knox was tempted to test his bonds, but the last 3 times he had tried it had triggered the manacles, no matter how fast he tried to break them. The commander always arrived moments later to continue her interrogation. He'd learned there was no use pretending unconsciousness. He had to earn oblivion, each and every time. How long has it been? Days? Weeks? So far, he'd managed to resist the commander's probing questions. Although a sinking sensation acknowledged the truth, it was getting harder. Once subjected to the current, his mind turned sluggish, and her offers felt tantalizingly genuine. Not that the pain would end if he answered. She delighted in any reason to remind him of her absolute power over him. If he didn't answer, he suffered. If he spoke, she would punish him exactly the same. Or maybe it would all stop. It was difficult to discern what was true anymore. The workings of his oaths and the intricacies of the order held the commander's attention. Beyond that, Knox couldn't remember the specifics of any line of questioning. The sky's healing was doing all it could to keep him alive, but his memory seemed to be a low priority. As if it matters. Who will I tell? He pushed the despondent thought aside. The thread of hope he was holding on to was dangerously thin, and he sensed his time was running out. "Overseer," the commander's voice came in overhead, and Knox flinched. "Come now, this could be perfectly pleasant if you cooperated." If he could have spit, he would have, but his mouth was too dry. Instead, he rolled over and pushed himself up to a sitting position with his knees in front of him, and rested his forehead against them. "Get on with it," he said, with as much venom as he could muster. His stomach clenched, preparing for the arcs of energy to crackle through him. None came. He lifted his head and eyed the camera in the corner, raising an eyebrow. A light laugh came over the speaker. "I decided to try something different today. I thought we could talk about Aislinn." His back stiffened and he glared at the camera. "She's free of you, that's all that matters. You think I'd let go of what is mine so easily?" The implications of that simple statement made him sick. He dropped his head back to his knees and clenched his teeth against the emotion that threatened him. Kip's sweet innocence at the mercy of creatures such as these was too much. He'd faced this box 1,000 times to ensure she never had to see another Tumultian soldier. "I thought you cared for her," she baited. "But it's obedience over empathy, isn't that right? Murder, theft, so noble your order." A flush of anger washed through him. "Theft! I can't steal what you never had any right to," he snarled. "Stop talking. Don't say another word." He could almost hear the patronizing expression in her tone. "You know that's not the case. She was our assurance, a living contract, something both you and Overseer Nyland seem to have difficulty understanding." "Nyland? Who's that?" The commander still believed the Order had sent Knox as a spy to Beryl, and spoke as if he knew things he'd never heard of. Nyland? Assurances? Aislinn. Kip's true name. He mumbled a curse, frustrated. "Nothing to say?" she prodded. The room crackled to life, sending sparks of electricity jumping from the walls and biting into his body. He let loose a roar as his muscles spasmed and skin burned. It ended as quickly as it began, and he slumped to the floor, chest heaving. The acrid smell of burnt flesh filled his nose. His gift was faltering, and some damage was no longer being repaired. "I don't know what you're talking about," he mumbled into the floor. "We do not deal in bad faith, a lesson I fear your elders are not prepared for." Knox could feel the import of her words, but his mind refused to focus. He tried to draw on his strength, and a surge of clarity touched his mind as another round of electricity unleashed. He bit his tongue to keep from crying out, and the metallic tang of blood filled his mouth. Healing pressed forward to little effect. The room stilled, and he lay limp and covered in sweat. "Why were you sent? For Nyland's acolyte or for some other reason?" His mind jumped with the erratic leaps of a system no longer functioning. Nyland? Acolyte? The names meant nothing. Blisters bubbled on the palms of his hands, and tendrils of smoke rose from his arms. "I don't know who Nyland is," he breathed. "No? You so quickly forget the man who sacrificed his life for you?" A piece clicked into place. The image of the man in Beryl, charred and laying across the generator, Kip's father. Is this Nyland she was referencing? "Nyland wasn't an overseer. He died," Knox said, sucking in a sharp breath, and rolled to his side. Pain seared as his skin pulled at the movement. "How alive are you feeling at this moment, overseer?" "They can kill us." Hope snapped like a killing blow. Whatever they were doing to him was more than merely physical. It was cutting off his connection to the sky. "I'm going to die." He hid his face in the crook of his arm and waited for the next round of electricity to batter him. The room remained quiet. "Keep fighting," a voice whispered within his mind. Kip's face rose to the forefront of his consciousness. An acolyte. The commander's words suddenly took on significance. Kip's immediate trust in him was more than that of a child rescued. She recognized he was an overseer. His power had never frightened her because it was familiar. She had slotted into his life seamlessly, eating as he did, naturally avoiding the same things he must. Of course. What child would naturally turn down a sweet treat like iced quat juice? He rolled and raised a chain-weighted hand to his forehead, wiping sweat from his eyes. The salt stung in the exit wounds in his hands. The commander spoke, oblivious of his revelation. "Aislinn was our assurance. She belongs to us." "Aislinn, Kip, belong to this monster?" Unhealed skin tore as he tried to push himself up from the floor, and his palm slipped through the blood. "No." "No?" "She belongs to the sky alone," he said, surprised at the thin-sounding rasp of his own voice. The superficial wounds were not the worst of what his body was bearing. "Not according to your order. All Avowed belong to them, and they gave her to us, and we will have her returned. But in the meantime, we have you, a fully trained overseer." "I am not an overseer, I am disavowed." Electricity arced through the room, pinning him once again to the floor in convulsions. "If you are going to open your mouth, make sure it is not with lies," she sneered. "If you were disavowed, you would be dead. You still carry the sky's gift." Her tone shifted to something more businesslike, as if she were brokering a deal. "But if you can join us, this can all end." "Never!" A round of electricity lit the room. His vision flickered as he lay, trying to recover. "Your order has betrayed you, used you. They are willing to trade away their birthright. Such corruption will not stand. They will fall, and you will be left with the same choice. Join us, or die." "The order would never what?" she spat. "Counter their word? Double-cross a whole nation to get what they want? They thought they could bait us with promises of land and power, only to change the terms when they got what they wanted? The deal will remain unbroken." "Land?" he asked, unable to keep his limbs from trembling. "Yes, she crooned, sensing his vulnerability. A piece of the earth and technology, which you have so beautifully demonstrated, can control even one of the sky in exchange for the outer reaches. Aislinn was our assurance that you stole. It can't be true. Could they really have surrendered one of the sky's own children, Kip? For a long moment, Knox was left with the sound of his ragged breathing and pulse thrumming in his ears. He lay still, fighting off unconsciousness. If you do not cooperate, I will send word to wipe out that pitiful group fleeing into the mountains, and to return Aislinn to me. Knox felt cold. You swore she could leave. And I let her. She can wander our new land until it is time for me to collect her. Kip. He gathered what strength he had and pushed himself to his knees, sitting back on his feet and staring at the camera. A thick, rough cough rattled him. Leave her. She's innocent. The Order would never trade away any child of the sky. You've been lied to. A derisive huff came through the speaker. At least your death won't be meaningless, she said, sounding as if she were offering him a gift. Soon you will serve as a reminder of the cost of playing such games with emulsion. The threat of imminent death hardly registered. The child? She will be mine, she said with finality. No. Knox collapsed forward, forehead to the ground, and sobbed. The tears choked him, and he retched. I failed. Kip, Emilia, Taryn, all of them. He released the power. The thin thread of strength tying him to his body snapped free, and he once again sank into darkness.